can we do a quick verbal case study of like, all right, there's a landscaper and he's got 4 staff and, you know, he's not getting paid by his clients and there's the stresses of staff calling in sick, and like, what would you do then? Like how if he hears this podcast, or she, I say he because the majority of the owners are men, and says, look, I listened to the podcast. I really don't know what to do. I'm concerned. What's that process?
Well, let's take that. So Chris phones up and he's saying to me, look, I'm not sleeping well at night. This is typical. My decision making is a bit poor. I'm getting angry. It's normally an emotional response that we notice first, because that's affecting everyone around us. The physiological response we might just keep to ourselves. And so when we start to interact, people start to verbalize, you're being a bit, like, normally it's the wife or the partner, you're being a bit jumpy at the moment. So they go, look, I need a bit of help. The first thing we're going to do is go, where are you now? So if we can't use saliva, we use other markers like sleep scores and what have you, just other inventories we can use. And then we start to break it down really simply. So I said to you before, there's lots of tools we can use. We've got meditation, yogas, things like that. They are bloody brilliant, but they're not the end solution. We use these as tools to be able to control. The other part is we look at your chemical stress. So we start to look at what's your diet like, because what we do know is that when people go into high stress states, it's always self-sabotage. We start to cut out things like, I don't have time to exercise.
I know what the next one's going to be. I don't have time to make my food, to make healthy food.
That's right. Or what that means is they do have time, they just don't have the capability.
They choose what to do with their time, yeah.
That's right. And they don't have the scope in their brain. They're constantly in a fear state. And that's sapping. You're awake, but you're tired. You're in bed, but you can't sleep. It's this vicious cycle. And what we have to do really is we have to stop the talk in the chat in the head. I'm not a psychologist, but one of the areas we do a lot of our best work is where we start the program with the chat of, what is your reality? What is your ego? Let's look at the arenas of life, and we can look at career and love and health, and like, what's been happening in the past that's been sabotaging. What trends and behaviors can we look at? And then what do we need to do to improve that? One of the things, I made a video about it the other day, one of the things people do is they blow up, it's too big, I can't deal with it right now. We've got to change. I've got to stop eating this. I've got to start drinking that. I've got to train 7 days a week. It's just like another job. So I talk about non-negotiables. I say, right, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put your trainers on and get out the front door. No, but how far do I have to run? I don't care. Go around the block, 10 minutes. The whole point is that you wake up in bed, you go, that was a shit night's sleep. I feel really tired. Oh God, my day's going to start. And then your head goes. And once you're in that process, your mental state gives you a physiological response, which then gives you a physical response. So what I think about, chemicals change in my body. We know about the dopamine, serotonins, cortisols, what have you. That then has a negative impact on my body. Once we get into that cycle, we then start looking at dramatic drop-offs in health, mental health, physical health, things like that. So getting up and getting out the door is just your way of winning. Okay, I won that one. Great. Do that twice a week. Great. Drink water. People talk about water all the time. Yeah, because it's freaking important. Okay. And so how much do you drink? I know I'm supposed to drink 2, but I drink about a cup. But I do drink coffee. I get this all the time.
I'm laughing because I've had, I guess because I've been super conscious of the health space for so long, not actively participating, just
I'm on the fringe,
just aware of it. All the gear and no idea. So yeah, that's why I laugh. But
so the little wins of just measuring the fluid intake. So fluid and getting your trainers on. Two very simple wins with good returns. This stuff, I don't know, let's talk about digestive, like it flushes you out, toxins in the gut. The fact that we talk about, I'm a business owner, I really need to be switched on and thinking all the time. Yeah, great. But those little neurons that fire in your brain, that electrical impulse transmits or conducts better through fluid. We know electricity conducts through water. Okay. So if your cells are dehydrated, you're not firing like you should. So all of a sudden, I'm like, so you want to talk about top performers and be on your game? Simply drinking water can have a really good impact.
I know that I feel better when I'm hydrated. I had a session with my coach maybe 2 months ago, and she said to me, "You're dehydrated at a cellular level." Like, it's pretty dehydrated.
Yeah, that's right. That's deep.
Yeah,
that's right.
Let's grab my water.
Yeah.
But okay, cool. So you go through that, and then they're the non-negotiables.
Yeah, and then there's food. So I don't. Again, I always a disclaimer in there somewhere. I'm not a dietitian, but I just make sure that you're having adequate food.
As in eating enough or eating the right and enough?
Well, there's two conversations here. So one thing we start to do is making sure that you're eating enough. Mm-hmm. So what we do know, there's lots of different diets out there, which in its own right is confusing. Like, you're supposed to eat, you're not supposed to eat. You're supposed to eat this, but not enough of that. That's the wrong one, but how about this? Which drives me nuts. But one thing I look at is stresses. So we can look at caffeine and we can look at sugar. And these are stresses on the body. But also low blood sugar, which is hypoglycemia. If we're not eating enough, because when we're stressed, we lose our appetite. You lose that. I don't sit there and go, when I'm relaxed, I go, do you know what? I'm bloody hungry. When I'm in a high stress state, I'm really rolled up. I'm in that fight or flight response. Hunger's not really an option for me right now because I'm already metabolizing energy for my fight or flight. So what happens is people go, I don't want to eat. I don't really feel like eating. And so they get into this cycle of, I don't do breakfast. I go, what? You've just spent the last 12 hours with no food in you, and now you don't eat breakfast, and then you go to work, you're a manual labor laying, you're moving kit around and you're on the tools all day. I'll have a pie at lunch. Yeah. And so we talk about fueling for performance. And landscapers out there might be thinking, I'm not an athlete. It's irrelevant. You do hard labor day in, day out, 5-6 days a week. Takes its toll. And you want a career out of this, which we've got to play a long game.
Well, you don't see it until you start talking to the business owners that are in their kind of mid-30s that are like, I need a succession plan. I can't be on the tools anymore. I'm like, this bit doesn't work anymore and I can't grab things properly anymore.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance that is tied. And I guess I'm not a dietitian or a doctor, but if you think about the diets, the traditional smoko van rolling in and, sausage roll and a nice coffee or whatever, and day in, day out, followed by a 6-pack of pale ale. And,
So there's an interesting conversation because I get an apprentice with me. He's a young lady or gentleman, 18 years old, and they just fall into the culture to fit in. So my culture is you sit in the van, you have a smoko and a pie, and you get back on the tools. Yeah. And there's no conversation around, are you okay? Or it's like, toughen up, buck up, or I'm not giving you time to go and eat 3 times a day. It's too long off the tools. Whereas the reverse of that could be, well, actually they can probably work harder because they're fueled. Yeah.
And if they've had the right food, they're not going to have spikes and drops in sugar, so they're not going to get doughy and...
Yeah. We've all been there, don't get me wrong. I've got an 18-year-old, they get their paycheck at the end of the week, they go to the pub Friday night. Yeah. They have a schnitty and beers all weekend, then turn up for work on Monday. Yeah. I understand that's probably what the current norm is. So we're not talking about right now, we're talking about shifts. How do we make cultural shifts in our markets and our industries? Because what we do know is the turnover of men and women through burnout or tiredness or whatever it might be is high. And it's not only the stress of business and trying to, they live paycheck to paycheck, contract to contract. Am I going to get it? Am I not? And then it's about, well, how is that work life affecting the other parts of your life, those other arenas? And once you start to, it doesn't take long. It takes one conversation to sit there and map it all out and go, shit, I'm not in a very good place. All right, well, let's not worry about that for now. Let's take one step at a time.
Which is where that's the non-negotiables coming in. You're like, all right.
Yeah. All that's doing, we're not making you fitter or faster or anything. It's just giving you control back.
I think a lot of business owners can fall into the trap of, like, I'm guilty of this. Like, if we're doing it, we're going to do it properly. So it's like, right, well, if I need to sort my stuff out, then I'm going to train with a PT 5 days a week. I've got meal plans coming in. I've got, special RO filters installed in the house to get water. Like, it's that ridiculous rather than just going, if I just do one thing. Yeah. There's a good book called The One Thing that's kind of like along that. And Jody was like that with me. She's like, you are you have too much shit going on. You can't have a meal plan and do this. And she's like, just drink 5 liters of water a day. That's it. And then you kind of get that happening. You're like, all right, now just go for a walk every night for half an hour. And that, it does make it a lot easier to, and you fall off, like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
We're human. So,
but people who are in overwhelm, not burnout, but overwhelm, don't want to concentrate on things like that. It's too much. So what they want is easy tools.
Yeah, a pill.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. So everyone talks to me. So what's the one thing? Yeah. It's a really sad story there, folks.
Water.
There is no one thing.
Yeah.
It's not just meditation.
It's holistic.
Not just mindfulness.
Yeah.
It comes into play where, okay, if you want to just do your day in, day outs, I just want to earn my cash and go home. Fair enough. But if you want to be a business owner and you want to grow your business, there's a lot of growth internally that needs to happen first.
100%.
And how much control do you want to take? So when we look at elite performance diary management, that sounds really poxy when you say it out loud. We are literally mapping out where everything sits and they are non-negotiable. You put an hour in for a podcast there, that's non-negotiable. Because
that's what happened. Like right now, my phone will get messages and
100%.
You can't stop.
Everyone wants a piece of you because you're the business owner. But it depends on where your focus sits. We talk about focus and performance. And what people mainly struggle with is because in small business, everyone is dependent on them and they are the center of everyone's, or the universe, the solar system. And because they're externalizing all their focus, they self-neglect. So part of my job is self-awareness. What are your early warning signs? How do we identify them quicker? What tools can we give you to bring you back into your bandwidth?
Yep.
And that's really a summary of where small business owners just stop, which is a big ask. Bit of self-reflection, or reach out to someone and have a chat. Doesn't need to be complicated. And then just find out where you're at and what you can do. The one magic pill doesn't work because your situation is different to mine. And so what you need is different. We're both stressed, but what you need is different to what I need.